Hey y'all, it's K-Bird Tweets, and this is Peace, Love, and Baseball. Hello, how's it going? Welcome into a new episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball. I am your host, Kelsey, also known as K-Bird Tweets. That's where you can find me on Twitter at KBURD Tweets. Hey, if you're watching here on YouTube, not only can you see my name to follow me on Twitter, but you can see that we're back on video and we're set up here in the all new Peace, Love, and Baseball studios. If you have listened to the show before, you know that I recently made a big move from Chicago, Illinois to the greater Philadelphia area. I'm in Jersey. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a move, but my husband did a hell of a lot of work to get us set up here. And if you're listening, you probably noticed that the sound quality is a little bit better than last week. And yeah, we're working on improving it every week, a little bit at a time. But I am super grateful to Mr. Muscles, which is what I should just refer to my husband as, because if you are new to the show, I'm a Cardinals fan, by the way. If you're watching, you can tell, but we're going to talk about lots of baseball, not just the Cardinals. Don't leave. But I am sitting in stadium seats from Busch Stadium 2, which you can see here. They are very heavy. And I had kind of accepted that I was going to record on the second floor of the house, and I just didn't know that these were going to make it upstairs. I'd kind of accepted that they weren't. And lo and behold, one day I'm just walk up here and here they are. So thank you so much to my beautiful, wonderful, amazing husband who has put all of this together and made it happen so that we can keep having fun and talking about peace, love, and baseball. So make sure you follow me on Twitter. You got to find us on Instagram at peace.love.baseball. If that's your jam. We have a Facebook page called Peace, Love, and Baseball. And if you have found us on YouTube, on the K-Bird Tweets YouTube channel, make sure that you're subscribed. Give us a thumbs up, a like. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I'm going to bring up lots of topics of conversation today. That's whether you want to leave a nice review about what you think, or you want to join in the conversation, or maybe a little bit of both. I would absolutely love that. Before we get down to business, we got a lot of important topics to cover today. I want to give a shout out to the fellas at Bucko Banter, a Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, because as I mentioned, I am a Cardinals fan, and the Cardinals and the Pirates are getting ready to match up this holiday week, this first week of July. And big series as we get to the halfway point of the season here, and the NL Central is still super tight. We're going to talk more about that in our episode today as well. But we previewed that matchup over at Bucko Banter. I think we talk about it in like the last 20 or 30 minutes of the episode, but all of their content is awesome. So I linked that episode in the show notes for you to check out, as well as joining Susie and I weekly over at Bourbon and Baseball. That is the other podcast that I co-host, and we have a really great time over there weekly, covering all of the headlines in baseball and all the fun things around the sport that you could possibly want to hear about. So come hang out with us over there after you finish your weekly Peace, Love, and Baseball. This week on Peace, Love, and Baseball, we have some serious business to attend to because, as I mentioned, it is the halfway point of the season, and I'm not a big predictions gal, but the time of the season in which I will give predictions is halfway through the season. I think if you wait further than that, then like you're kind of cheating because, you know, you can predict things easier as they get closer, but you have to wait until halfway through the season because strategy and vibes are such a huge part of a team's success and a way to predict how it's all going to play out. And we can't really fully analyze those things until this halfway point of the season. You know, we're really big on vibes here at Peace, Love, and Baseball. And the least interesting thing to me on a consumption level, I guess, of baseball is like how much money each team is spending. And that's what we can really look at in the roster construction, you know, coming into the season. But now that we have lived with these teams, we have watched and heard them play and really taken it in. and seeing those vibes, those team vibes, those coaching vibes, and how it's all playing out in real time, what the records look like. It's a lot more fun to make predictions. So we're going to do that to round out the episode. First, we've got to rate the City Connects. There were 9 new City Connect jerseys that came out this season. They have all come out now, so we can rate them in 2024. We're just going to do the ones in 2024 because there was 9. That's kind of a lot. We got to catch up on the St. Louis Cardinals because it's been a minute. It's been a bit, especially in the life of a St. Louis Cardinals fan, when they're like herky jerking us all over the place a little bit. So we'll talk about that, especially, how it all plays out at the halfway point of the season here. Then the Mets from the news, actually. Not a huge Mets podcast. We did do our Mets team feature episode a few weeks ago, and that was great. But the Mets, the LOL Mets, are now maybe the OMG Mets. So we got to talk about that. And then, yeah, I'm sure some other fun topics will come up along the way, as they always do. But let's get in to rating the City Connects. There were 3 big factors that I used to rate the City Connects. First was your input. You gave me your input on some polls that I put out on Twitter and shared your thoughts with me as well around these City Connects. So that I certainly took into account, along with my personal perception of the aesthetic. Those are like the 2 biggest factors. And then the third factor, which kind of helped some teams get, maybe just a hair ahead of the other with their City Connects, is the meaning behind the jersey. And I say that because it's really cool to know the meaning behind the jersey, and there are some really neat touches and things to learn about as the City Connects come out. But the City Connects as a whole don't necessarily do a great job most of the time with that. So I just couldn't let that be like too big of a factor. And maybe that's my beef ultimately with the City Connects. They're like trying too hard and kind of missing the mark with the actual thing that it's supposed to be about, connecting the city. I don't know. You let me know what you think about that, but let's rate them. We're going to rate from worst to best, or at least favorite to favorite, from the 9 that have come out in 2024. Number 9, I'm going to be honest, I don't really care what you had to say about this one because this was going to be my least favorite, but fortunately you agreed with me, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. This was the Dodgers' second go around at a City Connect because I guess the first one also sucked. And this was not an improvement. I don't know. Okay, the Dodgers focused on Los Angeles as a, quote, city of dreams and dreamers in their second go-around at the City Connect design. The Los Angeles watermark across the chest is inspired by the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, where the Dodgers first played when they moved from Brooklyn. There are also electric blue and red dots. Electric. That's a nice word. There are blue and red dots scattered throughout the design, referred to as a, quote, galaxy of stars. It looks like funfetti at best. It's not even like as fun as funfetti, if I'm being honest, though. It's more like a Pop-Tart. And I did not think of that. I saw a GIF or something that was like comparing a Pop-Tart to the Los Angeles Dodgers City Connects, and it was really spot on. I'm not sure which flavor of Pop-Tart that is. Let me know if you know. But yeah, weak aesthetically, very weak from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let me know if you think differently, if you would go out and buy a Dodgers City Connect. By the way, it is July 1st as I'm recording this. July 2nd is tomorrow, and producer June is lying at my feet. I'm not sure if you can hear her heavy breathing, but she is not a huge fan of fireworks. And here at our new home, we don't have a basement. So there's just like not basements in the homes in this neighborhood. So she can't go to the basement and hide. So she is hiding under my feet, under my desk here, helping produce PS11 baseball and being terrified of fireworks. We heard like 2 like an hour ago, but she's still here. It's sad. Okay, number 8 for City Connects, the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays focused on Toronto's nightlife energy with a quote night mode uniform. The Toronto font across the chest is inspired by a sign at Nathan Phillips Square, which is in the heart of Toronto, with a rhythmic skyline reflecting off Lake Ontario underneath of that. So the T on the Blue Jays cap is a nod to the pillars of Toronto City Hall. I really didn't like these aesthetically, and that's kind of the main reason. And I'm into a dark uniform. We're going to get into more of those. So it wasn't that. I just thought, I don't know if it's the low quality with the level of intricacy that they were trying to put into it, the low quality of like the fan graphs or fanatics, of fanatics. But yeah, it didn't work for me visually, just looking at it. But I do like all of the little nuanced pieces and thoughtfulness that went into it. Number 7, the Detroit Tigers. No surprise that the Detroit Tigers went with a design that pays homage to the Motor City and looks ahead to the quote, exciting future of the up and coming franchise. The electric blue prominent throughout the uniform represents the innovation across the auto industry, city, and the team. Elements such as a tire tread, racing stripe, and VIN, like the VIN number on a car, honor Detroit's signature export. So you know what I liked about these was that I actually liked like the Motor City across the front. That was about it. Like otherwise aesthetically, I don't know if they leaned into the motor, the auto thing like a little too much. Like that's what we all already know about Detroit. Was there something else that we could have thrown in there that maybe would have made it a little bit more exciting and more aesthetically pleasing? Cuz it just like it was just okay. I wasn't upset about it, but I don't know. Little underwhelming. All right, Tigers. Number 6, we're going with the New York Mets. At first, I was underwhelmed by the Mets, but they've grown on me a little bit. The Mets wanted to create a uniform that not only related to the fans of the team, but captured the connection to New York City as a whole. That is generally what the City Connects are supposed to do, right? So they leaned heavily on the NYC across the chest to represent, quote, a city like no other. Absolutely agree. I used to live in New York. I'm obsessed with it. They pay homage to New York subway stations with multiple design elements, most specifically the purple flourishes representing the 7 line, which stops at Citi Field, runs through Queens, and the Queensboro Bridge, which connects Manhattan and Queens, which is across the cap. Really liked that piece of it. I guess I wanted them to lean into the Queens part of it more, but I understand that like not all Mets fans are from Queens. Not all Mets fans like want to be super into Queens. So maybe that's it. And yeah, the more I learned about all the little things put into this, the more I liked it. At first glance, I was like, are we trying to be the Yankees? Which, of course, is just a Mets thing in general. So I think that's why I did not initially like them. But my favorite part is definitely the purple flourishes that are the nod to the 7 train. And yeah, solid go at it. Mets, number 6. Number 5, right in the middle of the pack, which is very on brand as well as their City Connects, the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals go for a look that stays within the franchise's famous uniform palette while paying homage to elements of their city. Quote, the Lou is written across the chest, which was popularized by St. Louis native and Grammy Award winning artist Nelly, who was involved in the design process. That is also the only time that anyone has ever called St. Louis the Lou. The sleeve patch is a nod to the Gateway Arch, and the fleur de lis is a nod to St. Louis's French founding and history. Most notably, it's the first time in franchise history that the team will ever wear a red jersey in the regular season. They leaned way too heavily on that. This is the first time I've ever worn a red jersey, baby. It's probably the first time the Mets have ever worn a gray jersey and the Tigers have ever worn a dark blue jersey. Like, what? I guess because people think they've worn red ones before because their spring training jerseys are always red. I don't know. These looked way too much like the normal uniform for me to get excited about. But if I'm going strictly on how they look great. They especially look great on the players on the field, like the uniform as a whole. I can definitely get behind. So, yeah, the lack of creativity that is initially noticeable is why they're not higher on this list, and they're solidly number 5. Number 4. Y'all changed my mind on this one because I actually had the number 3 team as number 4, but we got to put the Guardians at number 4 thanks to your input. The Guardians of Traffic statues on Cleveland's Hope Memorial Bridge are a huge inspiration to these uniforms as they were to the new team's name, with the texture of the jersey and pants color among the more notable nods to the statues. The Guardians also connect the past with the present, with braiding down the shoulders reminiscent of Cleveland's uniforms in the late 1980s and early 1990s. So I did like that they put that tie in, the old and the new, did a little nuance from the previous uniforms, especially because they did just go through a huge change as an organization, as a franchise, changing their name. And again, aesthetically, like just looking at them, nothing else into consideration, they are very aesthetically pleasing. I liked the texture and the white of the CLE. Now I don't know that you look at CLE and you're like, Cleveland, yeah. But aesthetically great. I also think the socks were cool, and I wish more players would play so you could see the socks. But yeah, solid number 4, Cleveland Guardians. Number 3, y'all liked these better than the Guardians, so I had to side with you, Minnesota Twins. The Twins opted to pay homage to the entire state instead of a city, and I appreciated that with their ripple effect design. The blue uniform is a nod to the more than 10,000 lakes throughout Minnesota. That's something I learned about Minnesota from the City Connect jersey. That's what I'm talking about. City Connects. Let's do it. And the sublimated pattern refers to the ripple effect with subtle shifts from dark to light blue, similar to the waves in a lake, and also meant to represent how the watercolor gets darker and deeper as one goes. Darker, the deeper one goes. There we go. Though there were speculation that the Twins might lean into a Prince-themed design, which I probably would have been really into as well. The only salute to the Grammy Award-winning artist is a topography of Lake Minnetonka under the brim of the cap. So I hate that they hid that. This is a criticism for a lot of City Connects. Some of the coolest things in these City Connects are hidden so they can say like, oh, we put this in here, but you can't actually see it, which means we can't appreciate it, especially because they're being sold when they're being worn on the field. We need to be able to see it. So, yeah, that's my biggest criticism is like, I wish that was a visible nod. Would be nice. But aesthetically, very fun, very catching to the eye while not being too much. Good job, Minnesota Twins. Number 2, those Philadelphia Phillies, baby. The Philly style goal was to be, quote, unapologetically Philly. The blue and yellow colors are inspired by the city's flag, and the blue collar of the jersey is meant to represent what the Phillies say is Philadelphia at its core, a quote, blue collar big city with a small town feel. I live less than 10 miles outside of Philadelphia, less than 10 miles from Citizens Bank Park. And you, first and foremost, you would not believe that because it does not feel like I am close to the 6th biggest city in our country at all. Like, this is like very like small town neighborhood vibes. Everybody's got big lots and big, beautiful backyards, lots of trees in New Jersey in general, which I think I mentioned last week. But yeah, being this close to Philadelphia, I haven't spent a ton of time in the city of Philadelphia, but I totally feel this vibe. I really appreciate it. And again, just aesthetically, like I loved the ombre in the Phillies uniforms. I think as a whole, again, like on the players on the field, they look really good. The only thing I didn't love about them was the actual font of Philly across the front. But that being said, like I don't know what font I would pick. I really liked the Liberty Bell hat too. And I'm definitely going to get some kind of Philly City Connect merch with the Liberty Bell on it. So stay tuned for that. Number 1, the best City Connect that came out this year is the Tampa Bay Rays. I think everyone pretty much agrees with me on this. The Rays use elements that highlight the unconventional nature of their organization, leaning into the skateboarding culture in Tampa Bay with one of the more notable decals of the City Connect series, a Ray executing a, quote, stale fish skateboard trick on the inside neck and hip pants. And they have that Ray on the skateboard on a ton of the merch and just the neon colors, like, again, overall aesthetically, just looking at it, it's badass. It's very cool. And I would absolutely wear it regardless of a team it is representing. And that's the kind of excitement that Tampa Bay needs, like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Tampa needs around their team. I'm like saying Tampa and I like the stadium is in St. Pete's. This is part of the problem, but you get what I'm saying. It is a really good way to get hype around the team and just get some free marketing by having people wear your cool merch. So yeah, Rays had the best City Connect uniform this year, according to all of us here at Peace, Love, and Baseball, and that includes you, listener. And the Dodgers had the worst. Mm. All right, let's get into our Cardinals catch up here because I did skip the month of June, basically in its entirety, of doing my Cardinals STL cards season scrapbook episodes. And that is because, I moved halfway across the country and all of that it's just a lot. Time has gone by very fast for me. But I wanted to talk about some of the biggest storylines that have popped up in the last month. And as we are halfway through the season here, what we're looking at from the St. Louis Cardinals, because the story has changed from the first month or even month or two of the season. There was kind of that halfway point of May where, lo and behold, I was at a game in Milwaukee. I was at the game on Mother's Day in Milwaukee, and the Cardinals decided if Kelsey is going to show up for me in Milwaukee, we need to get it together. We need to make some magic happen and turn the corner. So yeah, you thought it was because Ollie Marmol got ejected. No, it's because me and Wes McKinney and my husband were at the game having the best damn time. It was also Lance Lynn's birthday. So all the start of hopefully a better season as a whole to come for the Cardinals. But the first thing that I want to touch on is if you are a Cardinals fan, you'll know that this has been one of the biggest bright spots and best surprises of the season. And if you're not a Cardinals fan, this is a huge part of what is contributing to their success, and that is the 1-2 punch of Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson, two young players who you certainly were not assuming would be leading your offense as well as contributing very highly on a defensive level every single game. Mason Wynn is an elite shortstop. He has above average defense. We knew that. And we knew that coming into 2024, after he got just a handful of at-bats in the 2023 season, he maintained his rookie eligibility for 2024. And we were anticipating that, he would play solid defense and contribute enough to be in the starting nine every day on that end. But that, if he was able to hit league average, that would be a win. Pun intended, I guess. But Mason Wynn is not hitting league average. He is hitting far above league average. And for the majority of the season, he has had the highest batting average among rookies in the National League, at times among the whole league. Alec Burleson is in his second full season with the team and is someone who many of us did not even necessarily think was going to make the opening day roster. I certainly thought he should. I didn't know if he would. And here he is starting every day in the outfield. He really got that opportunity due to injuries, but he also got it because you can't take him out of the lineup when he is performing the way that he is. And he has just slotted into that second spot to make him so invaluable with the way that Mason Wynn is able to get on base. And these guys have the two best batting averages on the team. They have the highest WAR, wins above replacement, along with Brendan Donovan. They have the two best OPS and slugging percentage on the team outside of Wilson Contreras, who has like half as many at-bats as they do because he's been injured. And they have a higher slugging percentage than Nolan Gorman, Nolan Arenado, and Paul Goldschmidt. When I say they have a higher slugging percentage, like it's not close. That points out how some of these other players are underperforming as much as it points out how we're getting, more than what we expected out of Wynn and Burleson. Nonetheless, very exciting, very noteworthy. So Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson have got to be my highlight. And the biggest thing that I'm thinking about as we've got some people coming off the injured list is that's the the thing you definitely cannot change. And I would like to see that win burly 1-2 punch every single day in the lineup. I am super impressed with the defender that Alec Burleson has become. That is not something that I anticipated this year, really, at even in his career as a whole. I was not expecting that from him. And he's just surprised us all, on top of the fact that he has amazing energy and the vibes are immaculate. So keep this man on the field. Thank you very much. Let's talk about the rapid return of Wilson Contreras, because as we mentioned, he was the highest offensive performer by far. I mean, he was on fire in the first month and a half of the season, or just over a month, I guess, that he got to play. I believe it was May 7th when his forearm was shattered by a swing of JD Martinez when the Cardinals were playing the Mets. And his forearm was fractured. But 6.5 weeks later, he is catching full games, multiple days in a row, and just back at it like nothing ever happened. And I want to give a shout out here to Kyle Reese, because he tweeted something along the lines of, like, if I had a fractured forearm, or if a Major League Baseball player's bat hit my forearm, I would still be in the ICU like 7 weeks later. And I retweeted that and I said, you, me, and everyone except Wilson Contreras, because that's just the way that I feel about it. So it's really amazing. It is extra amazing because like having a fracture is not something that you can kind of like be like, no, I'm tough. Like, I'm fine. I promise. Like, there's imaging that has shown that he has healed in this rapidly seeming pace. And obviously I'm sure that he has some level of pain and discomfort and things that he's working through, but he is ready to get back at it. No excuses. And the man is on a long-term deal. Like, he has nothing to prove in terms of earning more money. He's just a baller and he wants to contribute to this team. And I love to see that so much. We all do as Cardinals fans. So we got your back, Wilson, and we're very excited to see you back in action. Hopefully he will pick up right where he left off. And of course, it's going to take him a little bit of time to get his timing back and settle back in. But having his bat back in the lineup is necessary, to say the least. We've also seen the rise of Pedro Pascal. We've also seen the rise of Pedro Pascal. But in this instance, I'd rather talk about Pedro Pages, a baseball player. Yes, Pedro Pages, who has been the backup catcher. So he came up when Wilson Contreras went on the injured list, not to be confused with Pedro Pascal, who stars in some movies and is definitely not a backup catcher. But I wrote Pedro Pascal here in my notes. So Pedro Pages is a really solid defensive catcher, and we've really seen him making a difference, especially with the type of pitching staff that the Cardinals have, primarily in their starting pitchers. And man, it's kind of weird to see them have to balance, what they want to prioritize. And Wilson's obviously done a ton of work to up his ante and his value behind the plate, but Pedro Pages has got it going on back there. Ivan Herrera is currently on the injured list, so that's kind of taking care of the 3 catcher problem in itself. But I'm really interested to see what they do with Pedro Pages. Now, he has contributed offensively, maybe more than we expected him to, especially considering he's not getting consistent at-bats. But ultimately, that may be where we don't see him as often as you might think that we would, in terms of how he contributes defensively. While we're talking about that, we have to talk about Saint Siani, the patron saint of defense, Michael Siani, who is our starting center fielder at the moment. He is playing almost every game in center field since Tommy Edman has been on the injured list for the entirety of the season so far, which is really a bummer. I'm a Tommy Edman truther, so don't come for me with your hot takes or, your shots at Tommy Edman. I love him and I hope he comes back healthy soon. But Michael Ciani is second behind only Marcus Semien in outs above average defensively. And here's the thing. He's a good sacrifice hitter. He's a great base runner. He can steal some bases, but he does hit significantly below average even when he is hitting well. So I want you to think about, if you are a Cardinals fan and you've been watching the games recently, like how well Michael Ciani has been hitting recently. I mean, there's been games where we literally won because he was the only one who had an RBI or could figure out how to get on base. But he's still batting .234 with an OPS of 535. He has done an incredible job at making himself valuable for the player that he is, and the Cardinals are extremely indebted to him for that. He does have a .5 WAR, wins above replacement. So defensively, he has contributed enough to where he even has a positive wins above replacement. The other thing that I hate to point out is that that's the same wins above replacement that Goldie, Arenado, and Gorman have accrued at this point in the season. Yikes! And therein lies the problem for the 2024 St. Louis Cardinals. So let's talk about the record since May 12th and the close game success that the Cardinals are having. They were 16-12 in the month of June. They have the best record in the league since May 12th, since that Mother's Day game that I was in attendance. And they've done all of that with a negative run differential, significantly negative -40 run differential, which is 23rd in the league. The Pirates have a -34 run differential. The Cubs have a -30. The Cincinnati Reds have a 15, +15, and the Brewers are at +75. So that means, like, by far they have the worst run differential in their division. And if you look at how that plays into expected records, right? There's all these expected stats. We can look at the run differential as like the biggest indicator of what their expected record would be. And with their run differential, the expected record is 37-46, which is worst in the NL Central. So they would be in last place if run differential alone played out into the standings. Run differential, if you're not familiar, it's actually pretty easy to understand. It is the difference between the number of runs that you've allowed the other team to score and the number of runs that your team has scored. So the Cardinals have let other teams score a lot and they're not scoring a lot. And even when they're winning games, they're not scoring a lot. So that makes sense to you, right? That's how you get this kind of a number. And we know that they're winning a lot of close games. And so luck is seemingly on their side, which is not something that we saw last season. But I guess what I'm unfortunately pointing out here is that I don't know that they're playing a whole lot different than last season. They are in a lot of ways, and we've covered that. But the biggest thing is really the luck factor, and like the Cincinnati Reds with a +15 run differential that are below 500 with their record. Like their projected record would be better. Their, fallen is just some tough luck is kind of what that says. My observation from watching the Cardinals games recently is that the Cardinals are wearing down pitchers much better. They are having much more competitive at bats than they were having in the first month or so of the season. So they're wearing down pitchers, they're taking competitive at bats, and they're finding ways to win, but they are not often like really beating teams, if that makes sense. When they lose, though, they are getting beat. So, like, they don't lose a ton of close games. If they lose, they lose. But if they win, it's close. And that's what I'm not liking about it. It's just not, it's not good for our blood pressure. It's not good for the longevity of like the ultimate outcome is what I'm ultimately worried about. But let's look at the National League Central as a whole again. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they need offense. They have these superstar young pitchers like up and coming that are really solid for them, along with Mitch Keller. But Jack Sawinski has been a bit of a bust this season, along with other offensive pieces that haven't been that exciting kind of shot that they needed. The bullpen is shaky, and they're not likely to be aggressive enough at the trade deadline to really change the trajectory that they're on to be, probably a 500 team at best. The Reds, they have too many injuries, man. They've just been plagued. They have a streaky Ellie De La Cruz, and their team seems to kind of live and die by how he is playing, and they're getting unlucky. The Cubs did not give Craig Counsell enough pitching. They are missing a big bat or maybe more because Swanson, Christopher Morel, Cody Bellinger, they're not enough. They're not performing enough. And Michael Busch and Ian Happ are actually the only Cubs with an OPS over 750. The Cubs have a lower team OPS than the Cardinals at this point, which is very telling. Their season has kind of gone opposite of the Cardinals, where they seemed like, we might just do this. Maybe we got some pieces to work with and we can amp up at the trade deadline. And it's taken kind of a sharp turn in the wrong direction as of late. Here is the good news, Cardinals fans. I believe that the Cardinals have been playing pretty close to their floor for the majority of the season. I believe that they have the highest floor in the National League Central, meaning like at their worst is the best worst. If all the teams were like at their worst, the Cardinals have the best worst. But they only get a playoff spot or anywhere close to closing the gap with the Brewers if they can get off of the floor. Like, we got to get closer to the ceiling than the floor. They need starting pitching at the deadline. They need consistent offensive production from Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras coming back, and in center field. And for the love of all things sacred to this game, they need offensive production off of the bench. I'm going to have a hard time talking about how Jose Fermin, love him as a utility guy, love him as a guy. Don't love him as our offensive answer to literally anything, really, at this point. So, yeah, we will see if they can improve there, which should improve a lot. It is hard to believe that their offensive statistics will not improve with Wilson and Lars Nootbaar coming back, possibly Tommy Edman in that mix. And if Nato, Goldie, and Norm can have a better second than first half, which isn't asking for a lot. I say it shouldn't be hard to do, but we'll see. So as I mentioned, I took June off from my weekly Cardinals coverage. Shoot me a tweet if you would like to get back to the Cardinals season scrapbook episodes. I do really enjoy it, but it's a good amount of work. And ultimately, like, I'm hoping to find something that's a little more snappy and engaging, a different format. So suggestions are welcome. Let me know what you like, what you don't, and if you're looking forward to getting back into it now that we're in July and I have a mic and a camera set up. Before we get to our predictions, we have to talk about the OMG Mets. If you have listened before, you know, I mean, I'm a Cardinals fan, so I'm not a huge Mets girl, but maybe I became a fan of not the Mets. I don't know. I was very confused by all of the happiness that I was feeling from Jose Iglesias' performance post game after the Astros and Mets game the other night at Citi Field. So Jose Iglesias, who is a player that I thought was old news, thought he was done for. It's been a while since Jose Iglesias has been relevant in baseball at all. He didn't play in the major leagues in 2023. And now here he is back, like, contributing as a second baseman, I believe, again, infielder for the Mets. And he is a recording artist. His recording artist name is Candelita, and he performed post-game on the field. And it was my favorite thing I have seen in baseball this year, maybe this decade. This is easily my favorite thing that the Mets have done outside of losing to the Cardinals in the 2006 NLCS, and that is saying a lot. Listen, I need to profess that nothing would actually make me happier. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. Outside of my team making, a deep postseason run, nothing would make me happier than to see the Mets contend in a season where they had to shed payroll and be more strategic after their insane spending and loaded roster last season failed them. Money without vibes and strategy is wasted. And that is a narrative that I want to push all the way to the national stage. I don't actually want to see Steve Cohen win a World Series, but the vibes and the strategy over money is very enticing. And that is what I will be shouting from the rooftops if the Mets end up making some magic here. They are currently 40-41. So they're fighting for 500, but not out of it by any means. So let's talk about reasons why this performance is great and important for the sport. If you have not watched it, I need you to go watch it because there are so many great things about it, from Harrison Bader wearing a pink Mets crop top, living his best life, from Starling Marte just seeming like he is like the most badass best friend you could ever have, to DJ Stewart, whose first name is DJ, but clearly he can't clap on beat and he does not give a F. Like, he is just having the best time. And Pete Alonso is in with his boys, y'all, and he wants you to know it. He is repping with that OMG shirt and he is feeling it. I also loved Francisco Lindor, who I think he's drinking like a protein shake post game, which would absolutely be me. That's like so relatable, being like, I want to be here for this, but like I gotta refuel. And he is just low key, like trying to be chill, but having the best time. So great. So the first reason why this is awesome and I loved it so much is I think it's really cool that we highlighted a player for a talent outside of the sport. It makes us more invested in them. It makes us see them as people. There is emotional buy-in and it creates more culture around the sport and its fans. Not just for Iglesias, but to see his teammates come out with him and show their personalities outside of the game, it was a straight up motherfucking blast. I still can't get over it. And if you haven't seen it, my favorite part is when the whole team comes out and joins him on the field, and whoever's idea that was, high five to you. Amazing work. It also makes more people want to come out to the park for events pre and post game, especially when the games are now shorter because of the pitch clock. So a lot of times, Citi Field is supposedly working on developing that area more and having it be more like a place you can go spend the day, kind of like Wrigleyville and some other, ballpark village at Busch Stadium, which is very necessary. And I really hope that for the borough of Queens that happens. But yeah, in the meantime, and at ballparks who just don't have access to spots like that, or, building up their stadium that way, stuff like this is going to get people to the ballpark. Lastly, and most importantly, it was fun. And fun makes things happen. Baseball needs more fun on the field to get engagement from fans and keep the sport young, fresh, and exciting. Period. I had this idea. If you've watched MLB Network, have you seen when Mark DeRosa does his like breakdown, his analysis of like hitters' swings? And it's like a full movie theater size screen and, full body shot of him. And he is like pointing things out to you on the screen. And he's like, all right, look at this. Now run it back. We're going to watch right here in slow-mo. See how he follows through on this. Anyway, it's great. It's great. Love it. Love it, D-Row. I might have to do that style of a video with this Jose Iglesias performance. Like, we might freeze it right here. Did you catch this part? Here's what we're getting. Here's where the magic happens. Should I do it? Let me know. I think it would be a lot of fun. Okay, let's bring it home, halfway home through the season, with my predictions for MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and the World Series. So my NL MVP prediction is, okay, I'm going to give you like the person that I think will probably win, and then I'm going to give you the person that I think is like a sleeper pick who will get more votes than people think, but is not going to win, okay? I think Bryce Harper is going to win. I know Shohei Ohtani is a hot favorite. I thought Shohei Ohtani should have won last year over Aaron Judge, because when he's doing what he's doing on both sides of the ball, he is the MVP. As long as he is hitting over 300 and has an ERA under 4 in a season, he is the MVP hands down, but he's not pitching this season. And I know he's still like the most unreal hitter ever, but Bryce Harper has taken on a new position, is playing that position incredibly well and contributing to helping his team win on on the defensive side of the ball, as well as just absolutely crushing it and being incredibly clutch along with his hard statistics. He is hurt right now, but really hoping he's going to be back soon. And that will not make a dent in his MVP campaign. The player that I would love to see get MVP votes, who is like a sleeper pick, is William Contreras for the Milwaukee Brewers. I think he is such a huge part of the cohesiveness of that team. And to have a catcher who is leading your offensive production is always very cool. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time telling you why on all of these because we're running over as it is. But my AL MVP picks are Gunnar Henderson. I want to see Gunnar Henderson win it. I know Aaron Judge again. Maybe I'm just like over the hype. I get it. He's amazing. What he's doing is amazing. But in terms of contributing to the team as a whole, I got to go with Gunnar Henderson, and a guy who I would love to see get as many votes as possible and as much recognition for what he's doing this season, though I certainly think he'll fall short of actually winning the MVP, is the Cleveland Guardians' Stephen Kwan. NL Cy Young picks. I am straight toss up here between Zach Wheeler and Tyler Glasnow. It's really going to come down to if Tyler Glasnow can keep up with his first half self and stay healthy and keep putting up those numbers, whereas Zach Wheeler, it's a little bit more predictable that like he probably will, but he's also older, maybe just a little bit. And I don't know, he's done it years in a row now. Can he do it again at an even higher level than ever before? The NL pitcher that I want to see get a little extra love that I certainly don't expect to win the Cy Young, but would love to see them maybe in the top 3 again is my Sonny Gray, because he is just like such a conventionally sound pitcher. It makes my heart so happy. And maybe it just particularly is a highlight for me as a Cardinals fan because I'm not used to seeing a pitcher of his caliber, but got to give Sonny a shout out there. AL Cy Young picks. I think Tarek Skubal is the hard favorite, and he has it in my book. One guy that I want to give a shout out to, who I think none of us predicted would be anywhere on the Cy Young list, is Seth Lugo, who is just having a hell of a season, and I hope he keeps it up for the second half. NL Rookie of the Year. I couldn't pick one, because weirdly, I would love to see Shota Imanaga win the Rookie of the Year, even though one, he's like not technically a rookie because he's a foreign professional player and he's a pitcher, which is always kind of weird. Like, I feel like pitchers who are really good in their rookie year kind of have like a leg up. There's just more excitement around them. So it's a little bit more of like a given, I guess. I don't know. I think it might be easier for them to win the Rookie of the Year, some people might say, but what he's doing is amazing. And God, his personality is so fun. I gotta root for that guy. You know, he is likable as all hell when me as a Cardinals fan is over here like, give this guy some credit. But Paul Skeens, if Paul Skeens keeps up with the track record that he has already created for himself, we're going to be looking at a hot Rookie of the Year candidate. Jackson Merrill of the Padres, outfielder for the Padres, is also someone who came in hot and has stayed hot. And I think there's a good chance that he's definitely in those top 2 right now for me for Rookie of the Year. 2 guys that I want to give a shout out, a little love to, that I do not expect to win, but would love to see them get lots of votes and acclamation, is our very own Mason Wynn, who we talked about earlier in the episode, and Cubs first baseman Michael Busch. Going to be interested to see if the Cubs use him as a trade piece or what here before the deadline, but he has been one of their top offensive players. I think I mentioned that earlier, and he's just really made the most of his opportunity. AL Rookie of the Year, there is a starting pitcher for the Yankees named Luis Gil, who I just think is a shoo-in, but 2 guys who I want to give a little love to that I hope continue to be celebrated for their rookie seasons are the Orioles' Colton Cowser and the Oakland A's closer Mason Miller. Definitely 2 guys that we're going to see a lot more excitement around in years to come. All right, let's finish it out strong with my World Series prediction. I don't think I gave anything like this prior to the season, Because again, I don't like to. I just don't think you can get a solid enough read on it from the factors that I like to take into consideration. So I am going to tell you about who's going to play in the World Series now that we're halfway through the season. And that is going to be the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah. And I think Phillies are going to win it in 6. I'm dropping the mic. We're done with it. That's it for this week's episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball.